Yeah, there it is. The MMA After Hour time. Here's my little Fjordor thingy. This was a big hit on Saturday, right? Boom. Yeah, there it is. Someone named MMA Taliban on Twitter tells me sport is the safe place we get to go to get away from it all, not to be lectured. Strange Twitter handle, but okay. I don't think anyone's really lecturing. I think it's more talking about what's going on, and it's hard to just ignore everything, but fair enough. Let's answer some questions. Hashtag the MMA Hour. What do we got?
Our first question is your question.
Oh.
Question of the week. I think it's the appropriate way to kind of start these off. Do you agree, also to get the crap out of the way so we can get to the real stuff, do you agree with the decision to headline UFC 216 with the interim lightweight title fight over the official flyweight title fight? I know where this stands. Do you know where this stands? The current voting?
I do not.
With 8,210 votes in and 19 hours left to vote, but we'll go snapshot of the moment. With 8,210 votes in, 52% of people agree with the decision to headline with the interim lightweight title fight.
Yeah, I feel like that's. I asked this question on Friday. I feel like that's pretty accurate from the responses I was getting.
Mixed response.
Well, a lot of people were like, "Nah, it's an insult to DJ." A lot of people were like, "Nah, the original main event was Lee Ferguson." So, I don't feel strongly, but I will admit, initially I was like, "Yeah, this seems a little weird." Some people were saying, well, look at UFC 189, the interim title fight main evented over Robbie Lawler versus Roy McDonald. Well, that one was a little different because Conor was booked to fight Jose Aldo, and Aldo pulled out less than 2 weeks out, so they're not going to bump him. This one was different, although, we must concede the fact that Lee and Ferguson, they were announced as the main event, so not fair to them to bump them down. I just thought it was interesting. I wonder, if it was someone else, a different division, official title fight, interim title fight, do they switch things up? That's all.
I have to think the answer is no to that.
Okay.
And that the weight class is more important than the interim versus non-interim. Also, it would almost be a conceit on their part that interim titles are less meaningful, wouldn't it? If they said, because this is an interim title fight, we're putting the flyweight title fight as the main event, wouldn't it kind of essentially be a concession that interim title fights are less meaningful or even meaningless? Which I don't think that they would do, or quite frankly, is the case. I think this interim title fight rightfully belongs in that spot.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not offended by it. I just thought it was interesting.
Sure.
If it was, I don't know.
I can't imagine that there's any fight they would bump under a flyweight title fight.
Even if it's interim.
What? Okay, name another division with an interim fight or another title fight that would get lower billing.
Like under the official flyweight title fight?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say an interim featherweight, women's featherweight title fight.
No, I still think it would.
You think that gets above?
Yeah.
Not only any... Well, we're not talking about any flyweight title fight. We're talking about the fight that may break the record for most title defenses.
Is that something that was like super highly promoted leading into the first time they were going to fight and ultimately didn't? I don't think they value it that much.
But
to put,
you have to admit, it's a little bit of an eyebrow raiser, right?
No.
All right.
Like, I think I'm struggling to see the other side of it. I guess if you're saying it's disrespectful to Demetrius, or I'm not saying you, if one is saying it's disrespectful to Demetrius, is that not disrespectful to now Kevin Lee and Tony Ferguson? Like, what is the justification for disrespecting them versus...
No.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. In fact, I'd say it seems like good business to me. It seems like the right way to go.
Okay.
Now, if you start putting non-title fights above it, now we have a problem.
Okay.
Now you're disrespecting it.
But this is really, it's not a real title fight.
Well, if that's the case, then don't, like, if
we know what this is, right? I mean, they needed a title.
Hey, okay, nobody was more on the Daniel Cormier is not the champion.
Here's
thing
the thing.
than me.
If
So you don't have to-
if DJ versus Borg was always going to headline 216, if they were never going to fight at 215 and they were always going to headline 216, and they also wanted to put Lee and Ferguson on the card, there's no way Lee and Ferguson would be an interim title fight. Well, I mean,
fair enough because they're already in that position. I agree
or
with that.
maybe I don't know. The reason that they did it was because
Or maybe they would.
Yeah, maybe they would because they're doing. I mean, it's all kinds of crazy.
I think that fight is just more exciting, more what the fans want to see. It's at the end of the day, that's what's going to speak, and that's what's going to be the main event. Now,
you think more people want to see Lee Ferguson than Borg DJ?
Is that controversial?
No, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like
think so.
it's a little crazy in the sense that DJ is considered the pound for pound king. He's about to break a record.
Has that bared any fruit in terms of ratings or viewership or pay-per-views?
No, but I'm talking about the hardcores here. We're talking about the hardcores right now.
No, that's not who they sell pay-per-views to.
No, but
They buy it.
I'm putting out the poll to the hardcores.
No. Well, fair enough, but no, I think that's the money fight on this card.
All right. Money, quote unquote.
No, yeah, maybe pun intended.
Right.
After small glimpses of Saki's takedown defense, this is from David, and clinch work against De Silva, has his MMA developed enough to take light heavyweight top 10? Essentially, let's not really break down his takedown defense or anything like that.
I think the jury's still out.
Do you think he could crack into the top 10?
I think the jury's still out, right?
I think, we were talking about this a little earlier. I think that division is so weak, except for, a handful of guys at the top, that he could really get in there pretty quickly. If you give him another fighter who's going to stand with him, I could see him cracking the top 10.
Oh, 100%.
Soon.
I mean,
Soon.
who's in the top 10?
Yeah, who's number 10?
But I guess when I think top 10, you think of a certain caliber, but the top 10 of the UFC light heavyweight division is kind of playing by different rules these days, right? Because it's so shallow. So yeah, sure.
Who do we got? Number 10 is Patrick Cummins. Number 9 is Alir Latifi. Number 8 is Misha Serkinov. So number 7 is Corey Anderson. Number 6 is OSP. Our number 5 is Shogun. Number 4 is Jimmy Manoa. Number 3 is Glover. Number 2 is Volkan Ozdemir. And number 1 is Alexander Gustafsson, champion Daniel Cormier. I don't see anybody on there that I'm going, oh no, there's no chance he gets to the top 10. I think, maybe he fights a guy like a Tyson Pedro next. He could vault himself into the top 10.
I don't know if he fights a Tyson Pedro, but there's guys on the back end there like a Jan Blachowicz, like a John Vellante,
The answer to, at least my answer to this question straightforward is yes, very easily. I could see
he will
him
crack
in
the top 15 after his next fight, just given the fact that there's just not so many guys. And then he'll win that fight. If he wins that fight, then he'll go into the top 10.
One thing I forgot.
Yes.
If you were watching before we had Rick's picks, one thing I totally forgot but meant to mention, Claudia Gadelha and Jessica Andrade. Incredible fight.
Although I saw
there wasn't one little highlight that stood out, but it was just an amazing fight overall. Should have highlighted that. That's on me.
I saw a lot of people who say that was the best fight in women's MMA history or UFC women's MMA history. No,
it was great though. I agree though, not the best.
Misha Tate, Holly Holm, Ioana Jacek, Claudia Gadelha 2. Those are better fights.
Yeah, the swings in momentum in all the Ioana and Gadelha fights were more impressive than mine.
This was actually after the first few minutes of the first round. It was rather one-sided.
Yeah, great fight.
Great fight, but it wasn't the greatest of all time.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. With Jones' situation, looking at the light heavyweight top 10 versus the heavyweight top 10, which division is more exciting right now?
Heavyweight versus light heavyweight?
Yeah. Let me bring up. I'll give you a rundown of. We just ran down light heavyweight. I'll give you a rundown of heavyweight. Overeem number 1 with Stipe as the champ. Overeem number 1, Fabricio Verdum number 2, Cain Velasquez number 3, Ngannou number 4, Hunt number 5, Derek Lewis number 6, 7 Volkov, 8 Tybura, 9 Olenek, 10 Stefan Struve, 11 Junior Albini, 12 Andrei Arlovsky, 13 Curtis Blades, 14 Travis Brown, 15 Tim Johnson. I'd say they're in a similar kind of.
I'll go with light heavyweight for this reason.
Yeah, I
mean, Saki coming in is exciting.
Sure.
Like the main exciting thing that the heavyweights have right now to me is Ngannou. Like I want to see where he goes, right? You can make a small case for Volkov. You can make a case, we'll see how Derek Lewis looks, but there's not a lot going on right now, right?
Not a fresh group of talent that's infused.
Saki is like super exciting to me because of who he was in the kickboxing world, and now he's coming in. There's not a ton going on. But then once we get into like the top 3, like Volkan has that interest.
Yeah.
Gustafsson versus DC is interesting to me. Like there's enough there. There's not that much going on at heavyweight right now, especially with, Stipe's contract issues. So I lean towards light heavyweight.
I think I fall on the other end, but not by a ton. I just think that the top, let's say 6 up to about Derek Lewis, you're talking about Overeem, Verdum, Velasquez, Ngannou, Hunt, Lewis. I think that's stronger than the light heavyweight side, and I'm more interested in kind of that title picture. But they're both not in the best of shape right now. They need some talent, and that's why guys like Gokhan Sake, when they come in, get people excited. Okay, speaking of that division, any updates on John Bones Jones? Do we know anything further after the latest round of testing being revealed? Okay. Reaction to Claudia losing to Jessica. What's next for both fighters going forward? So
I thought Claudia started off really strong, but then back end of the first round, Andrade started to adapt. Second round was hers. Third round was hers. I think Andrade is super impressive. I thought that was an amazing win for her. I thought it was really interesting afterwards how she kept saying how she doesn't have to leave Brazil to get that good training in. Yeah, clearly taking a shot at Claudia, throwing that shade. It was a really fun fight. It was, as far as like rankings go and the level of talent, it was the best fight on the card. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those fights where it's like, who are the people who lost to Joanna who aren't getting a shot anytime soon? You match those up. We've seen that in those divisions like featherweight, where there's been like dominant champions, bantamweight, things like that. So it was super impressive. I don't think it's going to get her a title shot anytime soon.
I think it was timely because if, let's say, Rose wins, now you've got a clear number one contender.
Yeah. Although if Rose wins, Joanna could very well get a
That's true. But what I think this established was, for the longest time, Claudia was essentially number one, and then there was everybody else. There was Claudia is the second best. She's given Joanna her best shot each of the times. Now we've seen Jessica Andrade is not to be trifled with, and kind of clearly established herself as that next position. So I think if we get a shakeup at the top, she's put herself in as good a position as you can to get that title shot. She definitely showed out. But again, I meant to highlight it, but an incredible fight by both fighters.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What are your thoughts on the next potential opponent for Luke Rockhold? A fight with Romero could be interesting.
I think a fight with Romero could be very interesting. Honestly, as I said at the top, I really wouldn't be surprised if he finds his way in a title shot. I mean, crazier things have happened. It's all about, can the UFC fill these cards with title shots? And if there's no champion available, they're going to start making these title fights, right? Like they are not. The problem, one of the problems I have with the UFC these days is that there's so many shows, there's so many holes to fill. They can't think 6 months in advance. They can't book, for the year. They really just have to make it to next month with some of these cards. 216 is an example of that. So it's like it's impossible to predict what's going to happen in December. Everything's on the table. He seems most interested in either fighting, obviously, for the belt November 4th or Whitaker. Would I be surprised if he fights Romero? No. Do I like that fight? Yes. He wanted that fight not that long ago. But there's just so much up in the air right now. It's a very weird time in the UFC. There's just like it does it not feel like it's a bit of a rudderless ship?
Yeah.
Like with the marketing, I still don't think they've got it down with the posters. Like the posters, I was just talking about the posters. Like the Anderson and Gaslam one. It's the same thing every time. It's the big guy over the little guy. It's like, let's make a big image and then put a small image.
Yeah, the
like
big head.
It did great with GSP Diaz, and now they keep doing it over again. It just like there's no, like, to me, combat sport. Like, where is Dana White? Why is it like to me, combat sports is all about, there's a promoter, like there's a system here, there's a formula. They don't have that system anymore in place. They don't have that formula in place. Like, it's important to have a promoter. It's important to have a Carnival Barker go out there and talk and scream and tell people why these fights are so great. It's important to have that system in place. I've told you that in the past. That's one of the things I thought Glory was missing. Coker over time has become better at that. He wasn't always very good at that. It's important that they don't have that right now. We don't know what's going on with Conor. Ronda's clearly gone. John Jones, like, it just kind of feels like, and this is a super important time for the UFC. This is one of the most important times in their recent history. They're about to get into serious negotiations for their TV deal. The TV deal is up not this December, next December. But now's the time that people are looking at your product. What do you have? How are your ratings? Where are your stars? Now's the time that you're actually being looked at with a very fine-tooth comb. This is a fascinating time for them.
Yeah, I think all those things that you mentioned are definitely factors and contributing to this. But I think the biggest one overall is that fighters are not rushing into fights as much as they had in the past. There's a much more prevalent sentiment about sitting down, holding out for money, not fighting injured. The ship just kind of running itself and continuing to sail on smoothly has been disrupted. Yeah. It doesn't happen like that anymore. There's a lot more hesitation, and you just can't trek on to the next thing.
And look, one more thing, like you can't compare the two. I know it's not apples to apples, but and what we're going to be talking about here, what I'm going to bring up is obviously not the same. But like now in this important time, are the fighters going to realize that if they get 0% of the TV deal that the UFC is going to sign at some point in the next year and change, that are they going to wake up and realize that that would be a horrible mistake? That there is a lot of money that they could be privy to if they play their cards right, if they come together, if they unify, some respect? Or are they just going to say, you know what, we're not entitled to this. Thanks, but no thanks.
How's that going to happen?
I don't know how it's going to happen. Honestly, that's not my job. My job is to talk about these things. My job is to bring light to these things. It's not my job to get them to come together. But
it's got to be somebody's
how are
job.
You not sitting there and saying, look, my brother and sister, they're about to make a lot of money because of us. Any network that signs the UFC is going to sign the UFC because of their roster, not because of the UFC. It's because of who they have, what they've got going on, the big fights they have coming up. That's why they sold for $4 billion. That's why WME-ING wanted to get into this business, because they were killing it. Are they going to smarten up? I don't have confidence just based on history, but that's another interesting story to watch now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm in the same boat. I don't have much confidence. None of those associations that were, around before are making much noise these days. From Chuck MMA, how do you guys feel about the Diaz McGregor trilogy? How do you see that fight going? So
Chuck Mindenhall?
No.
Well, I addressed this a little bit. That's the fight that they want. Will actually happen. There's a lot of hurdles. Both guys are going to demand a lot of money, but it's the biggest money fight. Don't you agree?
It's the biggest money fight.
$2 million, I think you could do. Right? Do you agree?
It's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
This is the fight, as Anderson Silva would say.
And by the way, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that being a title fight. I really don't.
That I might have an objection to.
I don't really.
Although, look, I mean,
this day
there have
and
been
age?
worse title
Yeah,
shots. Yeah,
come on.
there have been. So
I don't have a problem with it.
it's not. But why? It's big enough. You don't need to make it a title fight.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it be a title fight?
Yeah, because Conor's the 155 champion. Make the third fight for the belt and end it. That's the one.
Well, why wouldn't? I guess you're right. I mean, if it's not the next fight, that's the only way it would not be.
No, I think it will be. Again, unless something really bad happens in the negotiations.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Why would Conor fight a non-title fight? He has to.
Well, it depends. Well, if it's going to happen at lightweight,
Yes.
if it's going to happen at lightweight.
It's not going to happen at 170. That makes no sense.
Made no sense the second time they did it.
I get it. All right. He beat me the first time at 170. I want to beat him again. Okay, now you're 1-1. Now change the stakes, up the ante, make it for the belt.
Yeah.
Winner takes all.
You know what? You convinced me. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Make it for the belt.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, there's no alternative.
Yeah.
Unless they didn't fight at 155, but I don't want to see it at 170 again.
No.
I didn't want to see it at 170 the second time, but I get the narrative.
Yeah.
Scott Wiley, if you are matchmaking in the welterweight division, who are the next opponents for rising stars Mike Perry and Kamaru Usman?
Like we said, I like Usman versus RDA. I like Perry versus Condit. Perry called out someone last week. Who did he call out after that win? It was someone who was high up.
Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, that's right. Gosh, that would be nuts. I love that too. Why not? Let's make some new stars here. I'm down.
Mike Perry versus anybody. Usman versus anybody too. I feel like he really needs to step
like
up,
the
though.
Usman versus RDA fight.
Yeah, Usman.
I don't know if RDA is going to take it, but
That's a
I
tough one.
like those fights where it's like Jared Cannonier versus Glover, like a
right, where
young
somebody's
guy.
getting an opportunity.
Yeah, and if he loses, okay, back to the queue. And
if you're the veteran, though, you feel like somebody's
Sure.
trying to build their name off your back. You really have to be able to play the game with that one and see the bigger picture. From Mushroom Mike, any info on the next fight of Yair Rodriguez? Please send power to all the MMA community in Mexico. So
Yes.
I imagine Ike is from Mexico and looking for some info on Pantera.
Much love to all the people in Mexico. We spoke to Pantera in Edmonton. He's feeling things out as far as his training is going. Spent a little time at Team Alpha Male. We'll see if he actually, goes there full time. He hasn't fully decided whether or not he will stay there full time. Said he didn't have a fight. Said he, felt a lot of pressure in the Edgar fight and is learning how to deal with that. So I think he's just taking some time to get things in order. But as of right now, he doesn't have a fight. It's interesting, though, that he's changing scenes once again. He was in Albuquerque. He went to Chicago, now looking elsewhere. So you'd like to see him find a stable home and just stay there for quite some time through the ups and the downs.
Ray Borg, if he misses weight again, is he a 125er?
No.
That's it, right?
No.
I think we have to be done with that.
Yeah.
Sounded today like he was confident he's going to be able to make weight.
Yes,
so.
but the one thing I still don't understand, why did you fire, but he didn't want to get into that, but why did you fire your nutritionist if it had nothing to do with the weight cut, right?
Sure.
But he didn't want to get into that.
This was a question that was asked by multiple people, actually. Potential headliners for the Detroit pay-per-view. A lot of people interested in this one.
Yeah, the DeRozan guy. I would imagine he's from Toronto and he wants to go.
Take a trip to Detroit, yeah.
Look, the one that I think makes the most sense is Stipe because Cleveland is next to Detroit, but it sounds like he's targeting end of the year if they get the contract situation resolved. And of course, there's also the beginning of 2018 if they can't get it done in time. There aren't a ton of options. These are the ones that are options. So Stipe right now, I don't consider him an option just because he made it pretty clear last week that he wants to come back at the end of the year. I don't think DC will fight on that card. I don't think Michael Bisping will fight on that card. I don't think Tyron Woodley is going to fight on that card. I don't think that Conor McGregor is going to fight on that card. I do think there's a chance that they do Holloway Edgar on that card if Holloway can get his contract situation figured out. I don't think the winner of Cody and TJ Dillashaw going to fight on that card. I'd be very surprised if DJ turns around and fights on that card. I don't think Joanna's going to fight on that card. There's maybe a chance that the 145-pound belt is defended on that card, because that's a potential one with Cyborg and Holly Holm. By the way, with the Chris Cyborg situation, there's a chance that she's extended one more fight because of the USADA thing. Remember, I reported that her contract is up in October, but there's a chance that they will just extend her contract for a few months because they'll consider that time like sort of a frozen time in the contract. So there's a chance that her last fight will be that Holly Holm fight if they're able to get that fight done. So to recap, maybe the featherweight title fight for the men or the women. I guess there's an outside chance heavyweight, but right now there's not a ton going on. They still have those issues to deal with. Stipe's contract, Max Holloway's contract, Cyborg's contract. Again, fascinating time. It ain't so easy running an MMA promotion.
Could be a tough one, the DeRozan guy. Hang in there.
They got to Norfolk, right? They just kind of finalized Norfolk with Pettis and Poirier. So we're getting close to December 2nd, but not quite there yet.
Lorenz Larkin, Benson Henderson, after all the talk about their signing, was it a good move ultimately by the UFC to let them go? Too soon to tell. You touched on this a little bit earlier. The free agents that Bellator has signed that have come from the UFC haven't really all been home runs that they may have hoped for.
But
was it a good move by the UFC?
That's kind of looking at it with the glass half empty because it does like Daly gets a knockout over a name, right? Pitbull gets a win or Chandler gets a win over a name. So
sure,
they don't have to necessarily win. It's just kind of like the theory that a rising tide lifts all boats. You do want your big signings to pay off.
Well, especially because if they're getting the higher paychecks,
sure,
you don't want them to be on the losing end.
Absolutely. But there is something to be said also for, look, the Bellator talent ain't bad, right?
Nope.
Pitbull ain't bad. Chandler ain't bad. Douglas Lima beat Larkin, ain't bad, right? So there is something to be said for that as well. I don't think it's been horrible. You want kind of a mix. You want like it, you want it to be 50-50. You don't want them to just come in and smoke the Bellator guys. You don't want them to just lose. So, they've had some wins.
But from the UFC perspective.
Oh, from the UFC perspective? Yeah, I think look, their business isn't going down because Lorenz Larkin is there. Lorenz Larkin was fighting on the Fight Pass prelims against Neil Magny in his last fight. Benson was a headliner, but I don't think that he was a huge name for them. So so the UFC is able to afford to let these guys go. Like, they're not going to cry over the fact that Roy Nelson is gone. They're not going to cry. Is it unfortunate that Gegard isn't there? Like, you want the top 5 guys, especially one that you built up again at middleweight, to be there. Yeah, of course, but they're not going to crumble because those guys. Now you want to talk about a Connor leaving, obviously, or a GSP leaving, or one of a Cyborg or a Holly Holm. These could be difference makers. For Bellator, it's about collecting them and building them. Like, 1 or 2 names aren't going to make the difference to them, but them together starts to build up the promotion, if you get what I'm saying.
Should Bellator implement the 5-round main events?
I was never a huge fan of the 5-round main event, but I've kind of gotten used to them, and it does feel weird now watching a Bellator show and it's just 3 rounds. You'd like the sport to be uniform. I've never really asked them why they haven't adopted it. But yeah, it does kind of feel like it's time. I didn't like it when the UFC did it.
And now?
Now I don't mind it.
I'm firmly in the 5-round camp.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
I'm more worked up about boxing having 12-round title fights when it should be 11 or 13. That just pissed me off.
Fair enough. Bellator 183 was great. They've had some big signings this year. How close is Bellator to closing the gap with the UFC?
Still a big gap. The UFC is still Kleenex. The UFC is Xerox. They're the brand name. If you look at the ratings, and there's way more UFC events. Like, you can only really compare the two if they have the same amount of events in the same calendar year, and then you start to compare everything, right? The bigger shows, the ratings, the gates, and all that stuff. It's harder now because Bellator has less shows, so the UFC product is a little more thinned out. They've got more toys to play with. Do I think that the gap is closer today than it was a year ago today? Yes. Do I still think that the gap is gigantic? Yes. It's still the UFC. They're still the brand name. Do I think that Bellator has made some nice moves? Yes. Do I think that the UFC has had some self-inflicted wounds? Yes. Do I still think that the UFC is the brand for the foreseeable future, barring some kind of disaster? Absolutely. They're still the home to the best fighters. They're still the home to the biggest names. They're still able to put on the biggest, most important shows. They're still the home to Conor McGregor and the like. They're not going anywhere as far as this 2-horse race is concerned. But it's nice, a friend of mine once said he got married and it was like 2 years in, and he's like, sometimes it's nice to have, a little meat when you're having chicken every night. Of course, he was joking, but when it comes to being an MMA consumer, it's nice to have a different product to watch from time to time. I wish there were 3, 4, 5 other promotions that we could watch in North America who are thriving and putting on great shows. Right now, there's only really 2. As far as like the big leagues are concerned. There's other ones like, LFA are doing their thing, and we'll see what happens with PFL. But right now there's 2 big dogs. So that's good. I wish there were more, but fine. I'll take 2 over none, or take 2 over 1. The gap is closer, but let's not kid ourselves. It's still a massive, massive gap.
Can you repeat what the person who was getting married said? I didn't get it. It's good to have some meat? You're talking like it's good to have a hamburger when you're getting chicken every night.
Yeah,
gotcha.
That's what I meant.
Like red meat.
Sorry, I meant red meat. Because he said it to me in Hebrew, and basar is the basar is meat. Yeah, and chicken is chicken.
Okay. I was a little lost, but I'm with you.
Yeah, you feel me.
And I definitely feel what he was saying. I want that hamburger every once in a while.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, Ariel.
Yes. Oh, here we go.
What is your fondest memory of the Carmelo Anthony?
You're gonna get me all emotional. I was really emotional on Saturday when this actually happened. I've seen some pictures of him pop up.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
I want you to answer this, but I also want you to answer, how does it feel that Huddy Melo has emerged as possibly the best player in the NBA and now you've lost him?
By the way, I don't love the fact that he showed up wearing the hood today.
In the interviews?
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, all right.
Hoodie Mello is
I like the fact that he
thing
didn't
now.
really acknowledge it, and now he's like acknowledging. It's almost like Bellator and the Fedor sweater, and then they did it with the Rory turtleneck. Like
No,
something
see,
you can't.
Other people are pointing it out. He didn't go, I'm Hoodie Mello today.
No, but
he just
he
showed
wore-
up. That's the move.
Yeah, but he
That's
wore
the
it. He
move.
smiled. He put it on. You know, like don't wear it today, but give it to us tomorrow when you're.
No,
practicing.
Hoodie Mello transformation is complete. I think they're going to let him wear it on the court.
Yeah, right. But if the Thunder are smart, start making some hoodie jerseys.
making hoodies,
Oh, I would have snatched one of those up in a second. So my feelings are Carmelo Anthony getting traded very short. So I was at Syracuse when he was there, right, for that 1 year when they won in 2003. So I've always kind of like rooted for the guy. I was at the draft in 2003 when he got drafted by the Nuggets, and of course LeBron James went first. So I felt a kinship to Mr. Anthony over the years. Us being New York guys, you get the story. When the story came out that he wanted to come to the Knicks in 2011, I believe it was, I loved it. I was all in. I couldn't believe it. Superstar coming to the Knicks, our first superstar since Patrick Ewing. I was in Sydney, UFC 127, and I remember the trade going through, and I was so excited. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. It was great. It was so great to have a superstar. Over the years, I've been a big Melo backer. I always supported him. I feel like he's a great role model. I feel like he's a tremendous player. People love to shit on him. No, I've always backed Carmelo, and he's given us some great years. I hated the way it ended. I wish it didn't end this way. I hated the fact that they gave him a no trade clause. If they were going to sign him, don't sign him with a no trade because you never know what's going to happen. I hated the fact that Phil Jackson devalued his stock. I hated the fact that he openly tried to get him to leave. I hated the fact that the rest of the league knew that the Knicks wanted to get rid of him. I hated the fact that once Phil Jackson left, they couldn't make amends and get him back on track because I really think that he's going to have a great year. And I like him on this team and being sort of a role model for the likes of Kristaps Porzingis and Billy Hernangomez. I like that, and I'm sad to see him go. And I don't really feel all that impressed with the return, although I feel like they got what they got the best that they could actually get because everyone knew that they were desperate and especially knew that they were going to, want to get rid of him before media day today. This is not really answering your questions. But
so like every lemon, what you're saying is like every lemon that's ever been purchased.
This is very cathartic for me.
The first day was the best day and then it was all downhill from there. You were very excited to get him and then you found out that the engine wasn't,
something like that. But 2012, 2013 season was phenomenal. 54 wins. That was a great year. I went to most of the playoff games.
Remember when you called me just to rub in my face that Kyrie Irving was going to come to the Knicks and then he went to a division rival and then you lost Melo?
Listen, I still believe that Kristaps is going to lead us to the championship. I still believe in this team.
I think it's a good thing. Addition by subtraction.
Yeah, it hurts.
Melo's a great player.
It hurts.
But now it's Kristaps' team.
I saw that video of the OKC fans, at the airport embracing him, and then I see him today in the Thunder jersey, and it hurts a little bit.
2 months from now when he's playing ISO Melo ball, they'll
here's the silver lining. I can't wait to see the Porzingis era. I can't wait to see him lead the team. I believe in the team. I will always be a Knicks fan. I'm not a believer in Jeff Hornacek. I'm not so sure on the front office. I'm certainly not so sure on James Dolan as an owner who's able to stay out of the way and lead them to a championship and put the right people in place. I wish we had a Presti, a Masai Ujiri. I wish we had an RC Buford. I wish, but we don't have that. So here we are, with our situation. It's sad that the 2012, 2013 season is our only, respectable season in 17 years.
Is your fondest memory of the Carmelo Anthony era Jeremy Lin when Carmelo wasn't even playing?
No. That 54 win season was tremendous. He was great playing the 4. He was tremendous.
He was very good.
So I don't know. I don't know what to feel about all of this.
There's no one moment that stands out though.
Is there one game you're saying?
Yeah, one fondest memory.
I don't have one.
Yeah.
Really, when he was traded, that was the most exciting time.
Oh boy.
Right? And then he played against the Bucks and they had that commercial. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. It's just, it's mostly sad that I feel like he's worth a lot more than Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott in a second round pick. And I feel
Phil cut his legs out.
Yeah. And that's what pisses me off. And I'm so nervous about this rookie, Frank Ntilikina, because I feel like they should have had Dennis Smith Jr., and that would have been very exciting. I'm just worried right now. I'm really worried.
I will comfort you.
I just don't want them to be like 1-12 in November and completely out of it, because I can't go through another depressing season like that. And guess what? It's trending in that direction. On the flip side, though,
Just kidding. I can't comfort you.
By the way,
it's going to be bad.
By the way, on the flip side, as a basketball fan, this is great. I mean, Melo, and if you had to go somewhere like Westbrook and Paul George, and then, like, I like the fact that it's not a foregone conclusion that the Warriors are going to win. Like, they're probably going to win, but I like this. Wade's going to go to the Cavs probably.
Thank God. Oh, I'm excited about that one.
No, stop it with that music. Get out of here with that. I'm going. Not nice.
Okay. Here's an interesting one.
I thought that was it.
No, we're not done.
Oh.
Have y'all, you,
yes.
ever been interviewed by Canadian sensation Nardwuar?
I love Nardwuar. Do you know Nardwuar?
I love Nardwuar. That's the only reason I asked this, but he only interviews musical.
Yeah, he's not going to talk. Although he has tweeted me. If you go through my likes, you'll see that he has tweeted me once.
Did you ever tweet Doot Doot?
No, but he tweeted me that.
Of course he did.
Yeah, that's his thing. Those interviews are so great.
Yeah, that's the end of every interview.
But I didn't know he actually tweets it. He does these interviews with musicians, and he gives them all kinds of random objects, and that kind of tells.
Is he the most well-researched interviewer of all time?
Oh man,
does he know the most about each subject before?
I'd like to know: is it just him, or does he have a team?
I mean, is
he the one who's going out and buying that stuff? But yeah, you could sometimes get into Nardwuar rabbit holes.
Oh, I've done it.
Right?
Oh, I've done it.
It's just amazing.
Nardwuar, find him.
And you know what I love most about it? The reaction to the gifts. Because it's all very genuine. Like, that they're not reacting.
What I hate is sometimes people aren't appreciative of the level of research you did. It's kind of like, oh, cool, man.
That's
like
the flip side. That's the flip side.
It's like,
that's uncomfortable.
Dude, I just did like hours of research.
Not only the research,
these incredible
actually
things.
Go out and get the stuff, right? Yeah. That is.
But the people who do appreciate it, if you ever see like Jay-Z or the ones where like their minds are like completely blown.
I love that.
Nardwuar. Shout out to Nardwuar.
That's Canadian royalty. That's interview royalty right there.
Okay, here's another one. What hair products do you use?
Me? No, you.
I don't use any.
This
is all natural.
What kind of question is this?
Look, maybe you put a little
clearly you don't use any,
or something,
and I don't have any hair.
Wait, what? What do you mean clearly?
No, I don't use anything.
You're implying.
Although our good friends over at the Dollar Shave Club do hook us up with some nice stuff that I like. That butter,
the beard butter.
But actual hair products, nothing. What are you talking about? Got nothing. No. Still going for my Tuesday haircuts. Still haven't found the right barber, but
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but no hair product. No.
Well, what do you need the right barber for? You're talking about no hair product. What kind of haircut?
The trust. I need the consistency.
Your haircut seems very simple. I have to admit.
I'm trying to switch things up. I got a little fade going sometimes. A little skin fade. I try to feel fresh.
Ariel, last question. This one wasn't on the list, but. Somebody tweeted it, and it's probably worth highlighting. Did you see the?
This is not the question.
No, I'm reading this one.
Okay.
This one's not on here. Did you catch any of the ADCC, the jiu-jitsu tournament?
I did not.
It was good stuff.
Did you?
I didn't watch any of it. I was following along on Twitter. I was at a wedding in Calgary, so I wasn't able to tune in.
How was Calgary?
Beautiful. Lake Louise?
Yeah.
Ever been?
Yeah. No, I've never been. I've been to Calgary, but not Lake Louise.
Primo. Lake Louise is beautiful. Shout out to my boy Keith and Kara,
respect,
who got married. ADCC was good. Gordon Ryan established himself as probably the next star, 22 years old, won his division, and then
Chael Sonnen was victorious.
Absolute. Yeah. Always interesting to kind of keep aware of the ADCC stuff, because a lot of champions end up kind of transitioning over to the UFC or
Guilherme Cruz was reporting on it, but no, I didn't have time. I was in Montreal. There was a lot of MMA this weekend.
There was.
And that was enough for me. Plus, I had to sort of cope with the whole Carmelo Anthony thing.
I feel so bad for you.
Trump. There was a lot going on this weekend.
I feel so bad for you. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. New York Rick. Thank you very much to everyone in the back. Thank you very much to everyone who sent in questions. Thank you very much to our good friends at Twitter. It has been another fun day here on the MMA Hour. The MMA After Hour is in the books. That means you can hear my music, Mr. Rob. Thank you very much for that. Got a gift today. I don't know if you saw that earlier, but I got a mug from one Mickey Gall. We also buried the hatchet. We're best buds again. I'm going to text him later, and I'm going to say, hey, Mickey Gall, are we cool? I hope that he at least responds. But I must say, I'm kind of impressed that I could tell from his lack of responses that he was really pissed off at me. Anyway, the new and improved Mickey Gall is a sight to behold. I could just feel the energy and the confidence just oozing out of him. He is ready to go. I loved it. That was a lot of fun. Thank you very much to him for stopping by, and his pal Wild Bill as well. Thank you very much to Gokhan Saki. Congratulations on the successful UFC debut. Thank you very much to one Luke Rockhold. Great stuff. And Mazel Tov to his mother on her wedding this past weekend. Thank you very much to Ray Borg. All the best on October 7th, UFC 216 against Demetrius Johnson. That is just 2 weeks away. How about that? Thank you very much to Kamaru Usman. That was great stuff. Great to have him on the show for the first time. Thank you very much to Matt Brown. Love Matt Brown interviews. Very introspective, very intelligent, very thoughtful. Wish him the best. Good luck on November 11th. And again, congratulations on a phenomenal career. Thank you very much, of course, to Mickey Gall. Best of luck on November 4th. And finally, thank you very much to one Aaron Pico. Congratulations once again and happy birthday. 21. How about that? Back next week, same time and place. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here.